This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, 6 p.m. I'd like to call to order the July 13th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person, remotely online to the greatest extent possible. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meeting will not be restarted. All agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. And are there any other concerns, non-agenda items? I'll say no. All right, public hearings. A request for determination of applicability for 26 National Street, 157-108, construction of an artist studio in the buffer zone. I know we have people here to talk about that.
Yeah. And let me just quickly give you some additional.
Renderings?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. And as soon as I speak out, let me just briefly review the scope of what we're proposing. I'm Meredith Coburg, and this is my husband, Mike. And it is our great hope that it will be possible to build this art studio in our backyard. My art life focuses on the natural world, so it's been a long time dream to have a studio surrounded by nature. And so we are very much hoping that it will be possible to site the studio towards the property edge, which puts it within the buffer zone. And the studio is roughly 28 by 24 feet. There's some details to be worked out, partly depending on how it's sited. And I can get into those details later if that feels relevant. The context of the site is one is on the reverse of the photo showing the place, is just the Google map to help you verify where in Easthampton it is. And Mark and I have been so lucky to live here for the last 20 years. And in that time, we have been able to transform what was initially entirely a lawn with 3 trees into what is a much richer wildlife habitat. And that has been a delightful privilege, and that commitment to stewarding habitat, I think aligns with your mission. There are 3 factors that I want to focus on to add to your discernment in considering this question about whether it will be possible to build within the buffer zone. And the first factor is how the studio will be built. It's designed to be built on helical piers, so no excavation, so that minimizes the impact on the entire site, including the buffer zone and the neighboring wetland. It's extra insulated, so it will be environmentally friendlier. There will be electricity, but no plumbing. So again, it will be minimal impact. If you look at this sheet, where I made a plan for the rain garden and the new native plantings. Part of what just as an overview, I want to emphasize that with these new native plantings, the quality of the habitat will actually be significantly improved. As it is now, we will have to remove 2 pear trees, which unfortunately have a disease, and an apple tree that is unfortunately doomed as the neighboring lot trees grow higher and higher. It's been getting smaller and smaller as it gets shaded out. So the project does involve removing 3 trees, but replacing those with 3 native trees, 2 service berries, and a pagoda dogwood, and then surrounding the studio with clusters of native shrubs will be a significant improvement on what's happening now, which frankly is a battle between poison ivy and invasives that are trying to get a foothold. The rain garden is designed to be a bit larger than what is recommended. We have very sandy soil, so it would need to be dug to a depth of a foot. I've chosen the plants these were recommended from one of the state sites for native plants, based on having a kind of continuous flow of blossoms. So there's some early, middle, and late, and also all of these except bone set are already growing on site and so that second point that I want to emphasize is that the project will have a positive impact on the quality of the habitat. And then the third thing that I want to highlight is that this area of the lot is the kind of small area of sunny meadow. And there are two areas on the property that are especially biologically. One is the pond edge, and the other is that sunny meadow. And it's just, I think there's especially rich insect life there because there's always kingbirds and phoebes and catbirds and song sparrows flitting through that area.
You want to point that out?
Yeah, which area are you speaking about, Meredith?
So that's right in here. So this initially the whole plot was lawn except for where it slopes down to the pond. The original owner, Earl Milkey, had planted on pretty dense planting of Norway spruce. So that creates a fair amount of shade up to about here. And then as this area, what was formerly Earl Milkey's property, grows higher, that creates a fair amount of shade here. So the remaining sunny meadow is right in here. And during the site visit, Jay identified a kind of key question of, why not just move the proposed studio 10 feet to the east and eliminate this whole question? And I struggled in the moment to respond to that question because for me, it's partly aesthetic. I love this opening towards the pond and that movement towards the pond. And I knew that aesthetic considerations were not relevant to your focus. But thinking about it, once Jay raised that question, that's when I thought that, wait a minute, this particular area is an especially active biologically. And so I think that factor may be worth considering in your discernment, that, this is one of the places on the property, the other being the pond edge, where there's a particular concentration of wildlife activity. And if you look on the other side of the rain garden design, this is two things. One is a list of all of the species that we have been so lucky to see, on or just above our lot. And many of those species are active within that sunny meadow area, partly because it's a passageway. And the other thing that this page has is I tried to just clarify a bit about how the property has changed in the last 20 years. And so the blobs with a little circle in the center are trees, and the other blobs are shrubs. And so many of those species are native, and underneath it all, there are many native perennials. So the other thing that I wanted to raise for your feedback is the question that Ward Smith pointed to in his wetland report. And I'll just read from his report. And he's referring to the recently adopted Easthampton ordinance. The ordinance mandates a 50-foot undisturbed area for new projects. Since the proposed work area is already, quote, disturbed, being lawn and or landscaped, this may or may not apply to your project, and the Conservation Commission must be consulted on this since the ordinance is new. So let me pause there and see what I should be addressing.
So at this point, commission has. Do you want to go through some of the photos of the site visit?
Yep, let's go ahead and take a look. So we have photos from 2 different days here. I just threw them all in one, but you'll get a sense of this area, and Meredith can help me maybe point out where exactly we are on the property. But this post is one of the edges of where the studio is proposed, right? The kind of on the slant. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that's the back east corner. So that would be where the rain barrel is and the rain garden.
It's on this side.
Okay.
Just to orient yourself with the pond. In the back, and here we are looking towards the house here. The pink flag here is the edge of the inner buffer zone towards the outer buffer zone. And I'm standing where the studio would be.
Yes. Can
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Since we talked about the pond, but you mentioned your neighbor's wetland. So is this in relation to the neighbor's wetland or to the pond?
Yeah, the neighbor's wetland, everything that we're talking about is beyond the 100-foot
Yes, I
buffer
realize
zone
that.
for the pond.
Oh, okay.
This-
Sorry, I interrupted you. No,
this-
you
this
didn't
is
say
where
what
the-
I thought you were gonna say.
This is where the wetland is defined.
Yeah.
Which is on the neighbor's property, so that's the 50-foot line, that's the 100-foot line, and that's where the
Right.
studios.
But the 100-foot buffer for the for the pond just
Pond.
comes just beyond the Norway spruces.
Okay,
So we're out of the buffer zone of the pond.
thank you. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay, so here we are looking sort of down into the wetland here. So you can see one of the pink flags.
So that's entirely the neighbor's property. So there's a slope and then, the wetland is not that wide. There's a kind of, small valley, what would be the word, it's, gully is too steep, but, and that's where the wetland is.
And is that pink flag the 50 or the,
That's the true line, that's the delineation.
oh, okay.
Sorry, folks, this is just being sticky. Okay, again, we're looking down into the wetland. These are just a couple photos of the actual resource area.
Yeah, and that end of the wetlands was, our late neighbor, Ed Milkey had, blueberries there. So he had an enclosure with blueberries, and then at the, north end of the wetland was where he had his currants.
I believe this is probably the last flag we have on our plan. You can see the pond there as well.
Yeah.
So this is like a wetland finger that comes off of the pond. And this is a good representative photo. So this is our edge that's closest to the buffer zone, right? Or that's closest to the wetland
Right,
edge. This is our
right.
33-foot corner is where Meredith is standing.
Well, actually, it's the back,
Oh, that's the back
the
corner.
back, yes.
Okay.
The 33, if you look at the map that says 30. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Ava. So sorry about that. And that's the apple tree that is sadly shrinking as it gets shaded and would need to be removed.
And this is that same post, is that right? No, we're
That would be the northwest. So that would be this post here.
okay.
So that's one of the pear trees that would have to be.
And again, this is our, now we're looking at the post that's, we just keep spinning around, which the pond is this way, right?
Yeah.
The pond is this way.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't say that this is north.
Yeah.
And the pond is south at this bottom edge, beyond this bottom edge.
So we're standing down by the rain barrel and rain garden section, is that right?
Actually, this is looking, this is more here. See that right here is where the apple tree is.
Okay.
So it's still on that, western edge of the studio.
Great. Now we're looking back up towards the house and the studio construction. The studio would be right about here, right?
Yes, that, this is the pear tree that, would need to come out, and so that's this, northwest corner, or, close to it.
And this is just some images from actually inside the wetland. This is looking back at the house.
I, um, some of the strange straw covered spots are because I had already moved a big tree, a big shrub and a tree. So that's just covering up the bare dirt.
And this is this meadow area facing towards the pond. I think the rendering probably shows, you can, if you look at the rendering, you can see where that is in reference. Any images the commission would like me to return to? Feel like you have a good sense of the site. No, Jay and Hal were there. So, so the commission knows we have this new ordinance, right? That requires stricter review of projects in the buffer zone. And we put in this 50-foot no disturb area in the buffer zone, and then a set of conditions to be met if you're in the outer buffer zone. So this project is half in the inner and half in the outer. And why don't we pull up, I'm gonna pull up the ordinance language regarding the inner and the outer foot buffer zone, the inner and outer buffer zone for our review. So the inner 50-foot buffer zone, a minimum of 50 feet of undisturbed area, shall be established adjacent to any other identified resource area or the top of the slope steeper. That's not applicable here. No work, structure, vegetation removal, grading, or other alteration shall be allowed in the inner 50-foot buffer zone. In the outer 50-foot buffer zone, said no impervious surfaces included. Structures may be constructed or placed within the 50 to 100, except when you can meet these three requirements: that there's no direct runoff from the impervious surface to the inner 50-foot buffer zone for a storm of any size, and stormwater flows for the entire site for storms up to a 2-year event are managed entirely through infiltration, and impervious cover in the outer buffer zone does not exceed 20% of the total area of the outer 50-foot buffer zone on the site. And I guess I think the applicant deserves a lot of commendation here for the stormwater system that you added to your project as well, in an attempt to manage all the stormwater and not discharge any stormwater to the resource area. So the commission needs to determine whether or not. So I think it would be a fair read to say that the requirements for the outer buffer zone are met by Meredith's stormwater system, but we don't have that set of provisions in the inner 50-foot buffer zone area. And so that's why she applied for relief here. And that's what we have down here at 12-118-5, which I think Meredith went through, and you satisfied these. You provided information that addressed the impact to the proposed project on both the inner and outer 50-foot. And I mean, this is partially for the commission's determination if we feel as though we have enough information on these alternative project designs that show the proposed design is the least impactful to resource areas, limitations of the particular lot that necessitate relief, and then proposed mitigation and restoration, native species plantings, which certainly I feel as though D is well met by the extra information you've provided. I think the question that arises in my reading of this ordinance is whether or not say again. B, right. If there is an alternative project design that is less impactful to resource areas, and if the limitations of the lot are as such that necessitate relief. We do have a note from our chair. She shared just a comment. She's not able to be here tonight, but she did share a note, and we'll go ahead and review that. And I'll read this into the record. She said, IABA, since I won't be at the meeting on the 13th, I'm sending along my thoughts after reviewing the application for 26 Nashawanic. I think the owner is making some commendable efforts with regard to lessening the impact of the proposed structure in buffer zone. However, the structure is still proposed within the inner 50-foot, which is an area which our ordinance prohibits structures. Even within the outer 50, the structure requires approval via the relief process. It appears there are other options on the lot to locate the proposed studio where it would be outside the inner buffer. I feel the proposed design is great. Rain garden for stormwater handling are appropriate for receiving relief for the construction of the structure in the outer buffer, but do not see a compelling reason to allow it within the inner buffer, given that other options with less impact exist. So those are Julie's thoughts. Joe's not here. This commission is the, you guys are the deciding body here. Are there questions that we have for the applicant regarding location?
Yeah, I mean, just from, our visit the other day, we talked about this very, very briefly when we were visiting there, but what is, from your perspective as the applicant, what is lost by moving the structure the 10 or 15 feet or whatever linear distance it would take to get it out of the inner buffer and into the outer buffer? What's the barrier there?
Yeah, it will, setting aside the aesthetic considerations, I think there are two factors to consider. One is that will eat up the Sunny Meadow, which is one of the most biologically active zones on the whole lot. And the other is that there's some of the native trees that are, big enough that I can't move them. So, it means that native trees will have to be removed rather than diseased pear trees.
Looks kind of similar question, but if you moved it, like right now it's sort of this way on this side of the Sunny Meadow, but if you went to the other corner of the Sunny Meadow, what is lost?
That's where so let me see if
That's where
I'm,
the native trees are, you're talking.
okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding what shift you're suggesting.
Well, this is it, right?
Yeah,
And this is the Sunny Meadow.
yes.
So if it was like just this catty corner to the Sunny Meadow instead
Yeah,
of this.
this is pretty densely planted, so that with trees.
So it would be cutting
so,
down.
Yeah, so let me see if this clarifies that. So this is one of the existing mature trees. So this here, that's a maple. This is a pretty large magnolia, and the serviceberries and dogwood. So these would need to be cut in order to site it.
What if you moved it closer to the house along that same plane and took out those trees there and just moved it closer to the house to get you off, get it to that 50-foot line?
If you look at the 50-foot line, it's that's so in other words, just
You
putting it
moved
in
to
the
there,
yard.
moved it closer to the yard. This the corner was at that 50-foot point. Then you don't compromise your meadow, and you're only into lawn area. It's you're trying to do an aesthetic thing. We're trying to deal with a number protecting an area.
I mean,
And it might seem like the biologically active areas from your perspective are like the meadow and the pond edge, but there's an incredible amount of biologically active stuff happening in that wetland that you would be disturbed.
but that's what I really don't understand, is why this structure would create a disturbance. If nothing about the building will create a disturbance, and nothing about the
the water flow afterwards will create this, there will be an impermeable surface from the roof.
From the roof.
But that will, between the rain barrel and the rain garden, that will be totally addressed. So what I'm really not understanding is that basic question of why does this impact, especially given how, all of this here, all of this creation of habitat together serves as protection for the wetland. And also considering that, this is not a like an old growth wetland. 25 years ago, it was blueberry bushes. So I'm asking these questions to try to better understand how you're seeing it, because you can see that I have my own perspective.
I think if you did not have the native plantings in the rain garden, we'd be talking about why we couldn't get you into the 50 to 100 foot range. We'd be coming back to you saying you need to do something to offset that roof line, offset that roof so that you could actually build into the 50 to 100 foot range. But because of what you've proposed, then we're saying, okay, 50 to 100 feet, that you made an effort to make changes to meet that requirement. So
So the idea around buffer zones, right? One of the ideas around buffer zones is that they provide an area for the wetland to just have a little bit of breathing room, right? The vegetation that can fill a buffer zone can provide a roughness so that when we have runoff, it like filters through the vegetation and all of the growth there before it hits the wetland. So it provides like a pre-cleaning so that our wetland stays cleaner with more habitat value. It also provides the wetland room to move, right? I know we have a slope here, but we even saw the wetland start to creep up the slope a little bit. Like it wasn't just at the true toe of slope there, which is interesting. So the buffer gives the wetland a flexibility, knowing that the wetland lines change over time. I mean, like you said, it was blueberry bushes 20 years ago. I don't know what the hydrology was at that time, but clearly things have shifted, right, in the area. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Is there any argument to be made about the property as a whole in terms of what Meredith has done over the last 20 years, building this ecosystem with native plants? So if you think of the property as a whole, acting as a kind of protective buffer to the wetland, is that a fair assessment?
I mean, it certainly seems as though, right? Given that your proximity to the pond too, like it has an impact on the whole, on both the wetland finger, but also the pond in this inner and outer buffer zone area.
It's not just a square of yard. So she's really built up this amazing place that attracts all kinds of insects and birds. And so I guess when we were trying to think about, how this happens, there was a sense of if the property as a whole is a kind of protective buffer, would a small infraction on the 50 feet of a small building be, how could that be damaging to the wetland? And especially if you add in the additional things she's going to do to protect the wetland. So I know there's the rule. I respect the rule totally, and I'm glad there's this process. But I guess our question was, the property seems unique, and does that make it a different situation? Does that allow for a different consideration?
The ordinance that we just passed was to protect a little bit more.
Yeah.
And, what you have there is beautiful, but now we have to go by the new ordinance rules. That's why we were asking if you can move it. It will change things,
Sure.
but it will create probably a better
Right.
atmosphere. And as you said before, blueberries, there are other things there. It'll just keep evolving.
I guess that was our question. Are the rules absolute? Or is it a case by case situation? And if it's case by case, then this does feel different for the reasons I expressed. And therefore, can the rules bend a little bit?
Well, I'm thinking it's case by case, but if say your property was only 50 feet wide and you were trying to build this and you can't go onto your neighbor's property with the building, then that would be something where we'd say, okay, there's absolutely no way that you can meet the requirement. But here we think that you could make some adjustments and meet the requirement based on the property that you have. So,
Right. Okay.
So where on that map are we suggesting?
I was saying move it closer to the backyard and get the corner of the building at the 50-foot line there. And then it protects the metal from being stepped on. It just puts it closer to the house and keeps the same orientation.
And this is where you're saying there are more trees? It's,
No.
that's,
That's
There-
over here.
I think they think you put it in the yard.
Well, just slide it over 20 feet towards the house. That would get you to that corner. And there might be some small shrubs based on the drawing that would have to,
they have to be
that might
removed.
be removed. It doesn't look like, in the satellite, it doesn't look like there's much there. It looks like it's all lawn, so.
So if you moved it and you still did the rain garden and your plantings, would that suffice for relief?
Well, for me, if it moved to this location and they did the rain garden gets us to 50 to 100 based on them doing the rain garden work to protect the roof flow and having a place for that water to go. That gets us to 50 to 100 approval. But in this moving it over, it gets us away from the 0 to 50 area that we're trying to be firm on.
Because it does still cover, you said, what harm would it do to the wetland? It does still cover 500 square feet of the wet.
Or the
Of
buffer
the,
zone.
of the buffer zone,
Yeah.
rather. And there's stuff growing there, and it won't grow when it's shaded out by the bottom of your studio.
Yes, but again, what's growing there now is, I mean, this, the plantings that I'm proposing will be a significant improvement over what's growing there now, which is, poison ivy under the apple tree.
It's true. There isn't significant vegetation in that area. It's invasives and low.
Are we
Love.
asking for invasive removal? Would that be additional relief?
That, I'm trying to tackle that. And this proposed garden would be a way of really digging out what's taken away. Which, the bittersweet is an ongoing challenge. Or the swallowwood. It's actually more of the ongoing.
I understand. Well, for the ordinance.
Well, I was just gonna throw in my couple of cents. I think the difficulty that we've got is we have our new ordinance, which is, directly intended to provide enhanced protection for wetland resources. You have done an absolutely admirable job of landscaping and thinking this project through. But like it or not, you were a test case. And if we are in a position of compromising on a test case, the additional protections that we worked so hard to enact, that jeopardizes the integrity of the entire new ordinance. And I'm really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, it is, you know, I so regret not doing this before May. But
Yeah.
if the process doesn't have any flexibility, then
Well, it does have flexibility. It's just that you also have some flexibility. And where you're asking us to push back and we're sort of asking you to push back. So we're both, you're asking us to be flexible and we're asking you to be flexible. So I don't think we're not having any flexibility in, and the mitigation efforts that you presented are wonderful. But they mostly address the impact on the outer buffer zone. So we're still left with the impact on the inner buffer zone, which we've said is a no build zone. So it's like we're sort of having to be flexible on a less flexible rule. That is there to give this extra protection to wetlands that have not been getting them throughout the city. So
Yeah, this is nothing personal. We love what you've done. It's just, if you could think about moving it and some flexibility in that, it would still create a whole other area of habitat. It'll just change it a little. But then you're protecting the area that we're trying to protect. And I mean, we don't usually have people give us this much information at this depth, which is wonderful. So we like what you're doing. We like the relief efforts. We just have to ask you to consider moving the studio.
okay. I do just want to respond to what you raised in terms of, you know, because this is such a new ordinance, you're very reluctant to be flexible with this question. And I mean, I think that's the nature of your process, though, is to consider each one case by case. And so granting us the flexibility to cite it, 30 feet from the wetland boundary is very specific to all the variables that we've been discussing. And so given that there is some flexibility in the process, I don't see that exercising that flexibility in this first case sets a precedent that would be problematic.
You know, you phrase your question very, very well, because, and I'm not a lawyer, and thank God for small favors. But the challenge that I think has to recognize that it's going to come down is if we create an exception for this project, number one, on the new ordinance, and then the next 2 or 3 times, applicants come to us and ask us, why won't you show us the same flexibility and create the same exceptions for us? And it gets to be a legal problem for non-lawyers to.
Right, but if it's case by case, then there are specific reasons the exception was given. It wasn't just random or blanket. I'm arguing. I'm not sure.
That's good. Yeah, and the fancy legal team term is arbitrary and capricious. But in terms of real world applications, it comes down to why them, why not us?
Yeah.
And then that gets to a level of detailed data collection and analysis, which is completely beyond what we can do. And it's, I believe, in fairness, completely beyond what most applicants would be willing to do. So it gets to be an irresolvable
Yeah.
challenge.
Sure.
If you look at the ordinance, there's a key word throughout the ordinance, presumption. We are presuming that these areas have value for a bunch of qualitative reasons. We don't have the expertise or the means or the authority to really get into quantifying that. But yet that is the approach that applicants would come to us with.
Sure.
And that is ultimately what we have to try to get at.
Yeah.
As we deal with these things on a case by case. And the other word that nobody's mentioned, but I will, context. Because the context of every project is going to be a little bit different. And again, why this one, why not that one? So we're trying not to go down that slippery slope too quickly.
I do think too, unfortunately, the fact that you have an established lawn that's out of the inner 50-foot buffer zone that meets the size requirements of this is part of the argument that the specifics of your lot don't necessitate the relief. The ability to cite it elsewhere, even preserving these other beautiful ecological factors that you've highlighted for us, and we do so appreciate your depth of knowledge about your property and the improvements you've made to it. It's really palpable when you go back there. I think Jay and Hal were able to see it even on a really rainy day, that it's such a beautiful property that you've done such great restoration work of, and we so appreciate that. And it benefits all the critters of this community. But that there is a piece, that there is area closer to the house that is already established, that doesn't have as much ecological value, that the studio could shift towards.
Okay, I guess we'll come up with a different plan.
Do we need, since it was an RDA, are we also supposed to be determining whether an NOI is needed if you come back with a different plan?
So I think what makes sense is to continue this item, knowing that you'll submit a different version of the plot plan, and then the commission will review it at their next meeting. And wait to issue both the order under the ordinance and the DOA under the act until we have another version.
I think that makes sense.
So I didn't quite follow what that meant. Could you clarify?
So the commission
Next steps for us.
Right. So next steps for you are to make some changes and then resubmit them. The commission will review them, and you can come remotely or in person to the next meeting, or the meeting after, whenever you'd like them to continue it to.
The next meeting will be July 27th, 2 weeks.
Yeah. And does that mean I need to do a thing in the Gazette again?
No. Yeah, your one time in the Gazette is all set. Now you'll be on the agenda. The commission will vote to continue it, and then they'll review it at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and your efforts.
Yes.
Likewise.
So can I get a motion to continue to July 27th?
Continue to July 27th.
Second. So all in favor?
Hi.
Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, damn beavers.
All right. Okay. So we're going to start here. We'll do some site photos in a second, but this request has come from the director of the Department of Public Works. And initially the way that beaver situations, beaver emergencies emerge in under the Wetlands Protection Act is you need an emergency declaration first from the Department of Public Health declaring it a threat to the Department of Public Health. Yeah.
Health, yeah.
Is that his title? Declaring it a threat to public health. And he will issue that declaration, and then the commission follows up with an emergency certification to allow changes to be made. So I know Commissioner Carr had some questions about it, but we're just going to start by reviewing the necessity for it per the director's the director of the Department of Public Works' words. So he wrote to Ryan last week saying that he needs to breach this beaver dam that's causing a significant amount of water to be impounded against the roadside on Everett Street. So there's a culvert that's way down that's been blocked by beaver activity. There's a sanitary sewer transmission main located in Everett Street. So Everett Street, as far as we know, was just I don't know when it was built, but it's a raised street, but that they just built straight over Brickyard Brook, which is one of the main tributaries that flows into Lower Mill. So Lower Mill is fed by Nashawanic, and then by Brickyard Brook is what flows into there. So if you notice Lower Mill looking low, that's because all the water has been hanging out behind Everett Street. For now, a couple months now. Do you have a sense of when it started? I looked
At least a month, if not. I mean, maybe it's like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. I was there some time ago when the director first noticed this issue, and the water was like a couple feet high, and it was starting to pond. It was a pond, but it's going right. It's quite substantial. It's quite substantial. So Ryan attached an emergency breach certificate. So at this time, we're not actually working on figuring out what we're going to do with any potential beavers that are there. We're just talking about the dam itself, which is blocking. It's just a 36-inch culvert. So they built Everett Street, and they just like stuck a pipe for Brickyard Brook to flow through.
And so the health vet is the sewer line that's running also under the road.
Exactly. So the sewer line is inside Everett Street. Yeah,
Parallel.
it's inside. Yeah. And the threat to public safety is both the directors become concerned that the street could fail.
Yeah.
So that as it is impounded up to, I believe we have 12, 15 feet of water there. It's quite a considerable amount, but that's a lot of pressure against a road.
That wasn't designed for that.
That wasn't designed for that. This is definitely a situation where it's like we don't know what the road can take.
Or the pipe.
Or the pipe, right. Well, I think if the road breaks, the pipe probably goes with
Yes.
it. That's the concern. Yeah, the concern would be the pipe in the road, not the pipe wouldn't be otherwise effective on its own. So let's look at, yeah, go ahead.
Last time, when the people on Second Ave were trying to get their garage approved, and Mark Stinson was here, and they brought it up, because they're right near Plum Brook. They were all talking about like, oh, we think it's beavers, and Mark said, can't touch them, they're protected. And so I guess unless there's an emergency health.
Right. So that's the thing about, that's the thing about beavers and doing like any of these kinds of modifications.
We're not talking about touching any beavers anyways. We're talking about just breaking that dam that's not necessarily the dam, but the plug in the pipe.
Right.
It may not even be a dam situation. It could be debris jammed up in that pipe causing 13 to 15 feet of water to pile up.
It's true. Yeah.
Have they like scoped it with a camera or something?
Yeah.
Can they see inside the pipe?
We haven't done that at this time. Yeah. The plan is to lodge the director's plan is to like lodge a piece of equipment on the top of the slope. He's going to like come over. They're going to remove the guardrail and be on the top of the slope there before it starts to slope down. And then something with a really big arm that's going to reach down and push it out.
Gonna push it out.
Yeah. Or we're going to push it.
Grapple it and pull it out or whatever.
Apparently he doesn't have a piece of equipment that's long enough with a grip on. So the idea is that they're going to like wedge it in there and then push the debris out and hold the debris out
That
as
could
it
be,
starts to
that could be
drain.
a
I
problem,
mean, yeah, do they even know if there's beavers in there? That they would be potentially
No, so
pushing?
I just thought, should they do an emergency permit to trap them?
no.
Is that, no?
No, so we haven't figured out, we don't have anything on the books yet about what we're gonna do when potentially there are beavers in the vicinity.
But this is
Well,
not
there
a-
are, because we've seen them on our street.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, they're not busting a lodge or anything here. They're just
They're
taking the
removing-
debris out of
But
the.
they come up out of the wetland onto First Ave.
right. That's good information, Commissioner Carr, because that means that we will have to figure out something for the culvert
Because
to
they could-
prevent
they
this
could
happening
rebuild it by,
again.
24 hours, they could have the whole plug again.
Right. The concern, of course, is just that we can't see this culvert. Like this culvert is now 10 feet underwater. So can't really figure out what we need until we get the water level down. And the water level has to come down regardless because of the pressure on the road is the concern. So this is the lake up here. You can kind of see it from here. And this typically just looks like a stream in a marsh.
Wow.
I guess it was like, when we've had plumbers come to our house and they have cameras they stick down into the pipes, they can see. Is there no way to stick a camera down to actually get a sense of what's actually blocking?
What's actually blocking
Before
down
they
there?
just take a hammer to it, you know? It seems.
I mean, I think what would we see blocking it that would cause them not to need to just remove it?
No, I mean, obviously they need to remove it, but if it's just a hunk of tree and bramble, that's one thing. But if it's like a beaver dam, then they might think about, well, how do we maybe trap the beavers and move them or something before we push it through so that we don't push out baby beavers or things that might be
I think all the
living in
beavers are really happy up in this pond that's up away from them where that.
Well, they
blockage
live
is.
in their dams. I mean,
Well,
they live
in their
under.
lodges.
They live in lodges.
They live in lodges which are frequently well removed from where the dam is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're
No,
really
I
happy.
don't-
The dam is
Water
not,
50 feet from
The
that. dam.
dam's not.
the
their
dam is
lodge.
not in a boat.
Yeah,
Okay.
But
and
they-
the dam is
So
also
much better.
yeah, and the beavers have to the beavers breathe, right? They come up for air, and we're under like 12 feet of water here. So okay.
and they'll come from 50 feet away, 100 feet away to go fix this thing later, once they see the water flowing, but we'll see how it all plays out.
But I don't think we have any reason to think there's baby
No,
beavers
no.
living in the culvert.
Okay.
It's a good concern though. So just to see some images of it, it's a cool area. Have you been back there, Commissioner Carr? Did you hop
Well,
in a kayak?
Not in a kayak. I just go to the end of the street and look down, and then I go to Everett Street and look down and
Yeah,
see it. I used to walk down there all the time.
right. It's
Now
a
I-
marsh.
And Glenn wants to go swimming there, honestly, but I'm not recommending it.
Well, he should do
partner.
it tomorrow,
Is that a human?
or else the
Yeah.
opportunity is gonna be lost.
Right. So I did go down there in a kayak to do a little bit of rendezvousing to see if I could get an estimate of depth at the
Yep.
culvert, which is why that's where I got my number from. But honestly, it was just like well over my paddle height.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. I mean, beaver marshes are really cool.
Yeah, no,
It-
it's just,
it's just challenging when they're right up against sanitary sewer and road situations. So this gives you a sense of really how vast this is.
It's been.
they
This is
probably
what
don't
we
need
have.
it that big for their habitat either. It probably just worked out that way.
Right. Well, they got it plugged so good that the water just
Yeah.
kept rising for the
Right.
last, I mean, I think very little water has been getting through this culvert for the last 6-8
And
weeks.
I'm sure they like that.
Quite some
I mean,
time.
we love it because Plum Brook runs behind our house, and it normally is an intermittent stream that dries up in the summer, but it has been quite wide and deep.
Okay, point of clarification for me. I
Yeah.
always thought we were dealing with Brickyard Brook, and now you're talking Plum Brook.
Plum Brook flows into Brickyard right before
Okay.
the culvert. And so it
All right.
did. I went up the Brickyard Brook channel, and then I went up the Plum Brook channel a good
Okay,
ways.
okay.
Both of them were all backed up.
We're probably right behind her house.
So once they push the debris, how fast is the water?
Right.
dispersed?
So that's definitely my biggest concern about this, is the speed,
Do we know what the
and
culvert size is?
it's a 36-inch
36,
culvert.
okay.
It's quite small.
It could take a little bit.
Right. So
That's good, right?
yeah. So I mean, my hope here is, the way I wrote it here is removal of debris blocking the culvert in a slow and controlled manner so as to avoid producing large volumes of high velocity water or
Sure.
rapid dewatering. So we basically want everything in the pond to be able to find its way to
Yeah.
its own.
Sure.
If there's fish that are stuck up there or what have you, which there's fish in Brickyard Brook. So to find its way so they just don't get like discombobulated. And then his estimate was that up to 5 trees and up to 5 saplings and shrubs to place the equipment to do the removal.
Just
Um,
clearing wise.
mhm.
Okay.
Wait,
Just
at
to
the
create room
placement.
for the equipment to get there, yeah.
Exactly, yep. But there isn't gonna be a lot to be gained by going further down the slope because it's just too steep.
Sure.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
gonna have to be a long.
And they think they're doing this tomorrow?
I think they're starting this tomorrow. Yeah,
So DPW does it or they're having a.
they have a contractor coming in for this. Yeah,
Yeah, they already put up their road closures.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yep. Mhm.
So do we have any other conditions that we wanna request?
Are they causing anything to be unstable by removing these trees and shrubs, and they need to put wattles in or something to just protect that after removal?
Erosion.
Right, so something like,
Just erosion protection in the area where the
Yeah.
trees and saplings are being removed,
yeah,
just so the edge of the road doesn't wash out into the new lake.
right. Yeah, so straw wattle installation staked in on the, around, the base of the equipment.
Sure.
Is that the only mechanics? Is that arm?
Yep, as far as I
You
know,
know,
yep, that's my understanding, and I suspect by the next, I mean, given that Commissioner Parr has seen beavers, I suspect that by our next meeting, they'll probably have some kind of beaver, I mean, my hope is to put a beaver deceiver down there, right? So they clear out the culvert, and then a beaver deceiver is like, essentially like you cage the culvert,
Uh-huh.
and so they can try to block it, they'll like shove things up against
Or
it.
they add a tube that goes out 30 feet away, water really goes down the tube. It doesn't go near the culvert, it goes, and they can't figure out where the water's going, so.
Right,
they don't
right.
do anything.
And they'll often do some kind of combination situation. So they'll build like a cage around the culvert and they'll add a tube to allow the water to flow through. We just can't, I don't see a way for us to install that at this point without being able to see
Yeah,
anything.
until it's-
Until they get the
Not
water
until
down.
they clear it and.
That's right.
And can see it, yeah.
See what's there.
Do we know where the Beaver Lodge is? Did you see
I
it?
have not seen it. No, that was one thing I was looking for. And that's partially why, it's good to have that report because I wasn't seeing, I mean, the water has just risen so precipitously. So there's so much I'm sure that's under, but I wasn't seeing gnawed branches. Like I wasn't seeing a lot of beaver evidence.
If the water is
You
this,
could think it's just a claw.
if the water is this new, they may be living in the bank of something. They may dig burrows in the side of the bank until they get their lodge act together.
It's true. Yeah. But it sounds like, it sounds like you've seen beavers here.
My neighbor who lives right at the end of our street has seen beavers.
Yeah.
I'm partially about.
It looks like a great environment.
do we have to add in? Do we want a beaver deceiver if they come across it? Any
I
beavers?
think for now, so I think we're just, I mean, this is the piece, right? May not include work beyond that necessary to abate the emergency. That's the requirements of an emergency certification. So I think we, for now, just permit the removal of the debris,
And see
I agree, yeah, see what happens, yeah.
but I'll be in touch. I mean, the director, DPW director and I have been talking along
Okay.
this process.
All right.
I guess I was asking about their lodging to just say if they, in the process of removing the debris, discover either beavers or beaver lodging, if we need to have a condition around that, like to leave them alone or don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
what
you're
the-
gonna find them living in this location. It's just not the,
Well, she mentioned the hills, lodging in the hillside.
And you did, Jay?
well, no, but I'm not, the lot, that'd be upstream where all this nice water is located.
I see.
Yeah, it would be,
Okay.
because that's where all the food is. It's not by the road. It's all the area that's newly infiltrated with water. That's where they're having the time of their lives.
I'm gonna go out there now at night and see what they're.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, they are
yeah.
somewhat crepuscular, right? Like you
Yeah.
can see them better this time of day.
Yeah,
And what are they doing with the debris they're finding? Like, where are they?
I think they're eventually gonna pull it
just
out
haul it away.
or push it up against the side.
The side of
That
it.
isn't
The
a
side,
problem.
no, the side of the hill, like the side of the hillside, like the bank. I don't think it's that much. I mean, again, imagine a 36-inch culvert, right? Like
Yeah,
3
So it's just
feet. It's a big
Pump it up
hole.
and
If you go to
pretty
the
easy.
other side, you can see the culvert that's currently dry. That's something's flowing through.
And it may just be blocking up one end. They
That's
may
it.
just,
Right.
they're not gonna do more work than they have to.
I
They
know.
don't.
Yeah, that's my thought. It's a bit of a weird situation because, yeah, I mean, initially when I showed this to Julie, she was like, well, we can't just, if you just open it up, they'll plug it again immediately. And I'm like, but it's 12 feet underwater
that's gonna-
right now. Like,
I mean, couldn't they just go down the other side and like stick out a tool in there and try to pull out with?
and pull it out and not
I
get
don't know, I
it.
think
That way
this
they
is,
don't have to like disturb and.
I think this is what they're gonna have to have access with.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like not prepared to
I think so, and
provide advice on the best way to
potentially,
do
you know,
this.
doing as you suggest would be incredibly hazardous.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Let's
If the
just jump
water,
into-
Well, I mean, you probably got a culvert that is
it's pretty
at
long.
least 40 feet long.
Yeah,
And if the blockage is at the upstream end, that means you're gonna have to crawl 40 feet in.
You can't crawl on this culvert. It's too small, 36 inches.
Yeah.
But you're imagining with a tool, you can.
No, I wasn't suggesting they crawl in the culvert. I just thought maybe the blockage is at the other end. Who knows where the blockage is?
all right, so can we get a motion to,
Yeah, motion to issue this emergency
I-
service. Do we have any other conditions we want before?
sure. Other conditions?
No beavers will be harmed in the conduct of this work.
Unprecedented situation. I wouldn't know from
No,
other
right.
licensed staff.
Yeah,
You don't.
no hats will be made.
What'd you say?
Did you tell us it's already written?
Oh, yeah, I just said removal of the debris, blocking the culvert in a slow and controlled manner so to avoid producing large volumes of high velocity water or rapid dewatering. Removal of up to 5 trees and up to 5 saplings slash shrubs to place equipment for the removal of the debris blocking the culvert. Straw wattle installation staked in around the base of the equipment. Notification to the Conservation Commission.
They've already notified us 24 hours now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I think upon commencement of removal and around commencement of work.
End of their finding.
And up there. Do we want, I mean, yeah,
I think that's good.
I'm gonna be talking.
You're gonna hear all,
Anything else, guys? What do you think?
I'll let the beavers know.
you go out and tell them.
All right, someone want to issue a motion?
So a motion to issue, emergency certification, is that what we're asking for?
Yep.
So can I get that motion?
Okay, I move that we issue an emergency certification to unblock the Everett Street culvert.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. You just add the new documentation to the next one.
Yeah.
We don't hear that street over that.
So, I mean, I imagine it had to do with the mill buildings, right? They because it's that whole,
The row houses are where the workers from the mill building.
exactly,
Right down the street.
right?
Time are they doing this, Tamara?
I don't know when they're starting.
I'll let you know. I'll hear the chainsaws from my bedroom.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll update this front page and then send it over to Greg.
All right. Certification of compliance, we don't have any listed, right?
Yep.
Enforcement actions, any updates?
No updates on enforcement actions.
All right. Open space updates.
Yeah,
We got some things going on there.
right. Do we want to talk a little bit, Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about Echo Dale?
Yeah, we should just,
Information?
just
Yeah.
because we, we
We
had
were just
a
out
site
there.
visit out there. And we met with Russell, so we should look at this. And I guess, one of our concerns is really what Russell's concerns are, is about the health of those apple trees that are in the fields and the effect they would have on his real orchard. And that he's being told that those trees should be removed to protect his orchard because they're not being, well, he said that in some states it's law that if you stop having an orchard, you have to remove all the trees. So now if it's a law in Massachusetts, and I didn't bother looking it up, but
I think by like UMass, by like a UMass extension, do you?
I think
This is your line of
it's
work.
probably UMass Extension making that recommendation,
that's there. I think that's who's recommending to him to get those apple trees out of there. They
but I
tell
don't think
the
it's a state law,
Okay.
at least in the here. I mean, other states are.
So we toured around with Russell and just talked about. He doesn't think that there's anything really worth saving in these trees. They're pruned, years ago, and now they're just. You can see what the prune height was, and now they're 25 feet higher than that, and they're just all over the place. So, if we were going to do anything there that required us to make a trail and have sample plantings, we better remove all those and start with new trees. And
How many is it?
I'm thinking there's like 50 trees there
There's quite a few.
from a previous count 10 years ago.
And they're all around the same age.
Probably all around the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there wildlife?
Oh, I'm sure it's a great feeding area for things because just apples are still growing.
I just meant for like,
But it's has become such a disease vector situation and pests because it's not being treated at all like the rest of the orchard is.
And that's what the UMass Extension's been telling him for years to have that taken care of. And it's not his land, obviously. So,
Right.
but I think it's up to us to come up with a plan of what we're going to do with the property, but also, okay, he told me in a previous visit that the apple wood, a lot of people who do smoking meats and things like that, apple wood. And that could be something that we could maybe trade someone to say, okay, you can have the trees, you can keep the wood and sell it or use it yourself or whatever.
You seem less sure on this visit. I think we would have to do some of our own research to figure out if there is someone who would be interested in that. So this gives you a map just to all get oriented. It's 24 acres total. The community garden's right here. Park Hill Orchard is where my mouse is up here. And then this is the abandoned apple orchard. It's the meadow that Jay has been mowing. This area back here behind the community garden is wetland. So the community garden is stationed 50 feet from the wetland line. Their edge of their property or their edge of their established area is 50 feet from ultimately the wetland line, which is the wetland kind of swings all back here. There's some upland here, but this is all pretty wet, which is shown, I think, in the vegetation class. And then this is pine in the back here.
Yeah, way back is all pine, thin pine. I mean, this diameter, all really close together. Nothing you could use for lumber. Just on a really odd planting. I don't know if it was intended that way or just grew that way naturally. It doesn't make any sense how many small diameter trees there are so closely together.
I just really think it's early succession,
Yeah,
but yeah.
So they're all spindly and tall, reaching for light, and so they're all little toothpicks standing up.
So they desperately need to be thinned.
It needs to be thinned.
It needs to be thinned.
Some kind of maintenance plan should happen where 1 out of 5 is left there.
So I think we're just at an interesting precipice. I mean, there's been a lot of ideas about this area over the years. None of them have really stuck, including, so this map that I have pulled up right now is from the Echo Dale report from 2023. Wasn't that long ago, right before I came on, where the Conway School designed a food forest trail. And I personally think that I don't think it's a great idea for a few reasons. I mean, I really appreciate the work they did here. The first being the height of the apple trees, we're gonna have a lot of trouble getting people to access to the apples, and most of the property. The first reason. The second, I think, is that not having the neighbor buy-in, for a property like this, given that we're so close to his apple orchard, it's just going to be challenging from a community relations perspective and from the city being a good neighbor and partner, particularly when he very actively expressed interest in this becoming a more developed recreational resource. So I think he could be a real partner for us, but not with this
No,
particular
definitely. No,
vision.
he'd be happy if it was a recreational area,
Right.
just no apple trees in it.
And then I think the third is just that some kind of food forest trail, I just anticipate requiring a lot more maintenance than the city has capacity for.
Mhm.
That seems like a really kind of hands-on project that would be continually hands-on in order to keep it.
Unless there's other
Desirable.
plants we could plant and they would just naturalize and, take
Right.
over, and we wouldn't have to do maintenance on them to prune them into.
I mean, I
Sure.
think a fruit forest would be hard to maintain.
Exactly,
Or
right.
if it was other kinds of food, like nuts or something, it might be okay. But like,
Potentially.
then we'll
Yeah.
then we'll be like sitting here talking about peach tree boards.
Right. Right. And we're fundamentally not an agricultural group, and we're not really we don't have the capacity to do that kind of hands-on care.
Right.
So that was the most recent version, and then in the past there have been groups who've tried to revitalize the orchard like as an orchard. I think where I'm feeling at with this is that I think we should listen to the neighbor and figure out a plan on how we want to remove those apple trees. In the process, I think we should think about what do we eventually want this parcel to become, because there's so many apple trees in there that we could do a selective cutting and leave everything else that we have in there, the handful of native shrubs that we have in there in the undergrowth, or we could essentially do some kind of bulldoze and start fresh. Like, do we want to chip the parcel and then plant it into something we want it to be, into some kind of native plant arboretum or some other idea?
I like that one. A native plant arboretum. I was thinking to myself, oh, put a sugar bush in there, but maybe it needs to be a mixture.
Yeah, and is there a way to get community involvement in this? I think there's a lot of possibilities.
I do too, but right now I think we should just cut the apple trees because
Mhm.
despite how useless of a plot it might seem from a human perspective, I do think there's a lot of wildlife who are enjoying it, and to bulldoze it is gonna disturb a lot of their habitat.
Mhm.
And if we're ready to do something different, okay, maybe we bulldoze it. But if we're still like in the planning stage and we've got all these other things on our docket, including Burkowski, other trails and all that, that maybe that's not gonna happen this year. So why not give them another year to live there?
Well, the apple trees could be removed without bulldozing the property. Somebody can go
That's what I'm
and
saying.
selectively take the trees out and leave everything else.
That's what I'm suggesting. Yeah.
So that could happen if we could find a partner that was interested in wood or something like that. Or we unleash the Boy Scouts on it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think doing some research on if anyone is interested in this wood, folks want to ask around, like I'll do some research on it.
Yeah, I'll ask around too.
Yeah, Heather, I imagine you might be well situated to think about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to a couple of people.
Okay.
Extension.
I know we had a black walnut on our property and we got somebody who has a portable mill to come and cut it down for us, and
The shape of these
That's
trees,
shaped
they're not going to be anything you're going to get a board out of any use or.
no, I wasn't
No, I need to
suggesting
go and
he
chip 'em.
do it, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying whoever is interested in applewood for whatever
Right.
reason, that maybe they would.
You could harvest applewood that you could, smoke things with, but you're not going to cut a board out of any of it. It's all really short and round shaped and twisted and.
Yeah.
But okay.
Okay, so let's think about if we know anyone, or if there's an avenue around cutting the wood there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do some research. I mean, I do think this is like it's a good moment to think about the parcel. And I hear you, Commissioner Carr, I hear you, Sarah, that like maybe we need to be acting faster on the apple trees than we are gonna have on a broader vision, but maybe there's a way that we could.
Yeah, if we just
move
get the apple
forward.
trees out of the way, then the mowing would kind of allow things to be cleaned up a little bit, and the invasives would be easier to treat if they weren't, Bear Street wasn't climbing up the apple trees and.
It's true. Yeah,
It'll make Russell happy.
it'll make Russell happy for sure, for sure.
And
Does the
once you
commission-
hear that, you don't know what's gonna be growing in the meantime while we're waiting.
Right. It's true. It's true.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just curious, like what we could do with this parcel. Like I'm really quite curious where it could go. If we want to just keep it as mown open meadow that Jane mows once a year, but sans apple
Or
trees.
just, mow trails through it, and then people can just walk their dog through it and around it, and there's some parking by the garden, but Russell was talking about making another parking area off to the side that a road could be built along that top side and go to a little 8-car parking lot, something like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised he suggested that, but he did. He was like, you could build a little driveway right along the lot line and put a few cars in here.
What is the street adjacent to Community Garden which allows access?
This is Park Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, so Park Hill Orchard's right up here.
Gotcha.
Would the community garden want to expand?
It's a great question. We could approach them about that. It's the leveling. I have to look at, there is a bit of a drop off.
Right behind it drops off too much into that
Here.
wetland.
That's
area.
wetlands, but would they want to expand this
Even
way?
along the roadside, I think it drops off a little bit
Right, we should-
also, but yeah.
Should look at the topography though. That's a good thought. And I do think they should be a partner in this conversation, if we think about actually moving forward with any project out here.
Well, look at your little topographical thing that shows the elevations. That may,
Yeah, the LiDAR you did,
yes, yeah, that might show where things drop off.
right?
We don't have any ordinance issues. Do we, if we remove the trees? Like you said, it's near a well.
If we're in the buffer zone, then yeah, we'd have to do a filing for ourselves. Yeah, but I don't think we're in the resource areas.
Probably most of it's
I think we're
outside 50
outside of
feet.
it. Yeah, I can take a look at that though before we move forward on it.
And it's not a super wet wetland. I mean, in the spring it is, but in the fall it's pretty dry. It doesn't really have a source. It's coming out of the wall of the little hill there. It's not like a stream that's coming from Russell's property, just kind of just starts and ends.
Feel free to send me ideas.
Yes.
Or if you know anyone who has like a good eye to this kind of thing. As it feels like there could be some real potential. All right. Moving on to a project we do have actively ongoing, Orkowski. We have a bunch of new documents to review just to get up to speed. So one of them I shared with you all in advance, which was Goddard Consulting's rare species habitat assessment. Does the commission have any notes on that? It has already been sent to Ms. Deanne, but happy to receive notes that I can send back to Steve.
No, I read through it, very thorough.
Okay.
Seemed like good news in terms of his plugging our
Right.
trails.
And they acknowledge the fact that we're decreasing the amount of trail, and seem to view that as a positive.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I hope, he emphasizes that it's lower quality travel habitat and that we found some rock features and that we moved the trail away from some rock features. Hopefully that's satisfactory to Ms. Deanne. I really hope that we can get Natural Heritage to actually come out to the parcel, because I think I think we need eyes on the parcel for,
Okay.
I think there are just concerns. I sort of been hearing that there are just concerns about mountain bikes that I don't know how, I think we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board a little bit depending on what they respond to this with. If they don't sort of like help us push this forward, if they put up another big block, I think we'll have to go back to the drawing board.
Do they do site visits or do they just do everything by app?
They do, sometimes they will do site visits. Yeah. I mean, that was part of the thinking with working with a habitat consultant
Right,
too, was that
okay.
he has maybe the ability to nudge them towards that a
Sure,
little bit.
sure. That makes sense.
And we also received, I just uploaded this today, but we received this full assessment, full trail design from Walker. So this was our trail design that was informed by Steve Ribberty's findings on the parcel. So this map is what was developed. Green is new, yellow is staying, red is going. Yeah.
Yeah, really done well.
So hopefully he really draws it all out here. I think he like describes each section of the trail. I hope you all will take some time to review it just to see if there's anything else, so we can give him feedback as well, right? It's working with the commission here. So if you all encounter anything in here that you want, that you think is wrong, that you want differently, let me know. It's relatively detailed. It's quite detailed, actually. And I hope will help strengthen our case and also provide a solid design framework. This is interesting. It's not like constructing a development. Like this was for design documents. And I think we were all like, what does a design document of a mountain bike trail really look like? So that's one of our questions. Is this set sufficient for the design document? And the only other open space update I have is that we are gonna install the Oliver Street sign at long last on Tuesday, July 21st at 2 p.m. It's in the middle of the day. That's just when, yeah. I think it will be nice. We're gonna install it. Al Donahue, who is our super volunteer on the bridge build, is our super volunteer who's gonna install this sign. So
Nice.
once that sign is very good, and once that sign is in the ground, we can start thinking about a broader signage project. Yeah, what's your thought, Commissioner Beck? Yeah. Yeah, and I've been thinking a little bit about signage. I've been thinking about signage, and I've been thinking about trail maps. Has been on my mind recently about how we can get some better trail maps for any of our parcels, because we basically don't have a trail map for anything other than Mount Tom North. And we know Borkowski is very much in formation. We probably don't want to build out a map yet, but what would a little sketch map of Oliver Street Forest look like? What would a map of the Boy Scout camp look like? What would a map of Gostina look like? Could we get some of these trail maps to sort of flesh out our conservation area presence?
So are you thinking that all of our open space parcels have trails on them?
Yeah, the Oliver Street Woods parcels do have trails on them.
You're just talking about Oliver Street. I thought you meant in general, I thought you were saying it'd be good to get trail maps for all of our
instead of all of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think for any of the open space parcels that we have existing trails that we're not trying to actively close or change, it would be great to have a trail map of them.
And that would probably be part of a baseline documentation.
Yeah.
And I bet you can get a badge for creating a map of your Boy Scout.
That's correct.
Yeah, they have those skills. I think, trail maps they're actually deceptively challenging to get all the layers to look how you want them to look and to be a good.
But yeah, they need projects.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And that's a cool one,
Yeah, that's a
actually.
good one.
I had a call with Conway today to see if I could convince them to build us some maps as part of, I was spinning it as like broader report, because like a trail map was one of the deliverables. I'm like, we would take ideas for how to better manage Oliver Street or how to better manage Camp Cook, like with considering all the different stakeholders. And then we'd also get a trail map as a deliverable. So we'll see if we we'll see if we can move it forward. Okay, that's all I have. So July 21st at 2 p.m. Oliver Street Forest.
All right, compliance updates.
Yep. Okay, so the big ones are, let me see if I have anything
I
before.
don't see much highlighting here.
No, the first one I have some updates on are on the way. E, National Pond retaining wall
Okay, yes.
construction. So, we have all our pre-construction conditions, are met except for the installation of the sign, which I'm hoping will go up tomorrow morning. Will have to go up before they start.
You're thinking Tuesday?
Yep, tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep. And
Busy
so
day tomorrow.
busy day tomorrow. I know. So here's our construction entrance. This was at the pre-construction site meeting. My apologies for, I got that notice out to you all really late. It was like, it came together really fast. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of eyes on this project though, so I think we can be rest assured the National Pond Steering Committee is really on it. So here's our construction entrance. We're looking down towards the pond. That's the project. I told them they can get the number right on that if they want to. That's like right on the end there. There's their hazard kit and their fire extinguisher. And we have our equipment staged. The straw wattles are all staked in along the perimeter of the site, along the limit of work. It also has this nice construction fencing, so we keep everyone in the right place. And here's our fishing access where they're going to do the fishing access down here. This is the location where the dewatering equipment will be stationed. So this tree looks like it's fenced off, but this was the one that we had given permission for them to remove. They're going to remove that as part of this, as well as this autumn olive invasive shrub. That tree's already gone. So
That was gone a long time.
that was gone a long time ago. Yeah, it's been stuck for a while. So we're just seeing the site from a bunch of different angles. He was showing us that's the contractor there where the steps are going to go. They are going to get to use the Union Street repurposed stone. So
Yeah,
they have the
curving,
curbs
yeah.
from Union Street. Looking down into the pond here, some of that vegetation. Looking down, this is the slope they're going to be traversing, that they're going to be building the steps into, the embankment into. Looking across at the bank, and now we're actually on the retaining wall proper. And that's our contractor. So everything seemed good and ready to go.
Good.
And in the background of that photo, is that the boat ramp?
That's the boat ramp, yeah.
Yeah, directly across from the boat ramp. Yeah, that'll be your best vantage point if you want to watch the construction,
Yeah.
or from the pond itself.
Get a kayak.
Get a kayak,
Not a
exactly.
bad place to be when it's gonna be 98 degrees.
A Facebook post went out today. We're just trying to keep everyone appraised
Okay.
of what's going on.
Yep.
And yep, I believe they're good to go. And then the next one I have an update for you on is it as S 35 Pleasant. Is that S on yours? Yes, it is. Okay, great.
Mhm.
So we did I did like a surprise site visit for them on last week, on 2 weeks ago. Did a surprise site visit. Those houses came up quick. I'm sure you all have been driving
Yes.
by, so you've seen them.
I think they're gonna have an open house last Sunday. I thought I saw a sign driving by.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that the impervious?
Yes.
That is the porous asphalt. Yeah.
I mean, not the impervious.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can see it looks a little different. If you walk on it, it feels a little different too. So I was seeing some issues here.
Okay.
That's not what we like to see. I was not seeing a lot of sediment migration down the slope, but definitely that silt fencing is not what we're looking for. And they had just done a bunch of their plantings, but that's a lot of exposed soil, and we've been having some rains.
Mhm.
So I reached out to Kevin and sent over a memo just saying that we visited it, we looked. I told the site foreman, and then I returned, and he had only fixed parts of it, and
Sure.
so then this note came.
Okay,
He has since fixed it, and I required, and I think this should be a practice moving forward, that with these site inspection reports, the way that Kevin had been doing it, or whoever been. Yeah, I mean, it says that Kevin has actually been doing the inspections, that he hadn't always been including images. He had just been including this little chart.
sure.
And I just think it's too easy to just check off that everything's fine if you're not actually taking photos
Okay.
to say that everything's fine.
Okay.
So I think moving forward, and I told Kevin that for the remainder of his permit, we need to see images with it.
That could be a plan going forward. That makes sense.
I think we could even,
Yeah.
if we can remember to actually write it into the condition as
Sure.
well, that
Okay.
these weekly inspections and post-storm inspections need to include images. So, but you can see that the silt fencing has been repaired. You can see the areas where it was pulled down and back up. So no sediment travel. I did go a little ways down the slope. No significant travel. And we're in the riverfront area. We're in the
Mhm.
outer edge of the riverfront area. The sediment would have to go quite some distance before making
But
it
still,
anywhere
it's-
close.
That'd be done with.
Got to be dealt with. So just keeping you all updated there.
So Ava. Surprise visit.
Sneak attack.
Stealthy.
Yeah, that's why we put that in the ordinance, right? That the commission or its agent can just show up at a site at any time. For those reasons. Okay, and then moving down to over at Lathrop, the solar canopy and maintenance building, we discussed wanting to get a set of signage along the wetland line. I believe discussed that at the last meeting. So as I was going to direct them to do that, I ran into the issue of which wetland line. The last time the wetland line was confirmed there was 2017 in an RDA, so it's not still valid. Ward Smith did the wetland line. He confirmed for this application that in the proximity of the resource area, in the proximity of the project, the resource area line remained true to what he saw in 2017. Like, we have a note from him around the solar canopy in the maintenance building and what was to be the duplex, the duplex. So I'm curious if the commission wants. I feel of two minds on this. They're out of our project at this point. Like, we can't really. I think really what we need is a new delineation done, which is no small undertaking on a project of this size and this complexity of wetlands. So I'm curious if it makes sense to put off this necessity of signage until if they apply for something again and require a full new delineation done, with then the appropriate signage as required. So you think, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think that makes sense.
Because this is just a small piece.
Right where they
right?
are now doesn't warrant that. But I think a new delineation as they go forward to a bigger step makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, is there a way to put something that's still a sign, but it's not, it's a little vaguer, like approaching wetland area, please do not disturb. I don't know, something that sort of isn't like, this is the wetland, but just says, leave this alone.
Like something like conservation. I don't know. I guess
Vegetated filter strip, we were calling it before,
right.
I could at least say that this is a vegetated filter strip to protect the wetlands at the bottom of this hill. I don't know.
You don't mean by the construction area, you mean across the whole property?
No. I just meant by the construction.
Oh, yeah. No, I think we did require signage.
But you're talking about the whole.
Yeah, we had this conversation 3 weeks ago, just to refresh us all, about the fact that, there was this mode where the duplex was going to go. There is this wetland that had been mowed. And Lathrop, I think you can kind of see from these images, it's just this like sprawling, look at this wetland line. Like, it's this sprawling wetland system. And in some circumstances, like here, they really look at like that little, they really built relatively close to They built in the buffer zone relatively close, and the concern about landscaping pushing out into the buffer zone. And so whether or not we had talked about wanting to require them or request that they actually sign their wetland, like we did with like the co-op. When they built the co-op, we required them to post little signs that said wetland buffer, don't disturb, or we did that at 69.
But all that was current information at the time. That was all current delineations.
Right. So I don't think we want to do it off of a 9-year-old delineation, which is the concern, because it just might be inaccurate.
Right, I feel like that would be kind of, I don't know, that just opens up a can of worms, especially since if they come back to us, we're gonna have to ask for a new delineation.
Right, and they'll be
Why
like,
not just leave it alone?
I'm okay with that.
yeah.
So we're not gonna have a no mow where they were mowing?
Where they were mowing, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we could, I think they got the picture about that specific spot.
Do you think there are other places there that it is encouraging?
I don't know.
It's a big property. It's hard to.
Yeah, but if you don't do a no mow sign,
You're like, what about
if-
next year?
yeah, unless you do a surprise site visit, you won't know if it's being mowed.
Right. Right.
Does that have anything to do with the new delineation, or can that just be just?
We could just require
That.
for a specific, please mark that one,
Yeah,
one
because that
area.
was one of the years we asked them not to mow. Maybe we should just have that marked.
Because if we don't have an active project going on, do we even have the purview to tell them we need a new wetland delineation?
No, not really. Yeah. Oh, I mean, we can request that they install.
The no-mo,
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
the no-mo. It definitely makes sense to just do that, and because like you said, they already had to go away without getting that part of their project. They're gonna come back at some point, and that's will be the time to.
I think, right, next time we require a delineation for a new delineation, not wordsmith coming back and saying my delineation is still good.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, great. And I think, I have one RDA update, which is just that the platform was constructed and is looking good.
Yeah, those are great.
Yep. Doesn't appear to be any issue around the pond bank.
No.
Go hang out on it. That'd be nice.
All right, so the general business, we had meeting minutes from the 6/8.
Yeah, and I still owe you guys 2 other sets. So minutes forthcoming.
Did everyone have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Motion to approve 6/8/26 minute.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Don't need to talk about wetlands ordinance, right?
We don't, I will just share, so, just so everyone knows, and that if you're directing people, and you all now have a hard copy of your wetlands ordinance, it's your very own. And it is found on the website right here, Easthampton, past the Easthampton Wetlands Ordinance. Form E is found here, and I think the way that I'm just gonna keep calling it, like the way that I wrote it on here, I'm just calling it like Form E and an RDA to avoid. I mean, when we have an NOI that's being reviewed under both, I think we'll call it an NOI, just like an NOI under the act and an NOI under the ordinance. I think we're gonna have this funny category like we just had tonight, where we have an RDA under the act, but it's technically an NOI under our ordinance. But rather than calling it that, I'm just gonna call it Form E, which is what we're calling the
Yeah,
form,
okay.
just to sort of keep it
Okay.
distinct. Does that make sense? So it's,
Do they have to fill out a Form E even if it's just an RDA?
yes, yeah, because it's buffer zone impact, what now requires Form E. Yeah, so that's what our system is looking like. That's how we set it up.
Okay.
And when we eventually return to 26 Nashawanic, we'll write her an order of conditions. And also issue her a DOA under the act. So it will be just a local order of conditions and a determination of applicability. Right. Yeah, which we won't have those when we are just working with. We won't have those when we're working with NOIs. We'll have just one document when it's like a bigger project. These small projects have this kind of dualism going on. We can think about if there's a way to streamline it. I feel like this is still taking suggestions. It's still in flux. But if you open to your wetlands ordinance, you have it all in here. Page numbers are correct now.
Okay.
All your definitions should be easy to use. Read it, love it, etc. Learn it, exactly. It's only 26 pages. It's so
That's
much
not
shorter
bad.
than the act.
Yes, it's nice.
Yes.
So much shorter than the act. And then if you keep flipping, you'll see that I actually included a copy of Form E so you can see what the applicants have to fill out, their resource area impacts, and then we have the spread of their fee calculation sheets.
Right.
And then the little table of different resource areas. So everything you need.
There you go.
So you were saying when that other item comes back up,
Yes.
they'll have to fill that out.
He's already filled out for me.
Filled
It's,
out.
you've all read it already because you've
Yeah.
reviewed the file.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just need, for 26 Nashawanic, we need a new plan set, right? We need a revision, but yeah, she filled out for me. Here it is right here.
Right.
She didn't have any issues with the form, so it seems. So
That's
that's
good.
at least, you know,
Yeah.
and if one says it works fine.
Okay.
And that's all I have for you.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Michelle, they can vote. Yeah, the chair
I
can't
thought you
take a
made a
vote. No,
vote.
the chair can't do that. Get one.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.